Welcome to Let's Write This Movie. I am your struggling screenwriter, René Garcia.
And I am your struggling script reader, Brian Glass.
Excellent. Today, we will be discussing pages 1 through 17, going over the original pages 1 through 8 and Brian's changes that I've implemented, as well as covering the new pages and characters. And
you're going to be treated to some very special voices from René. Stay tuned.
So, Brian, what's new this week? Or what was new last week?
I guess the obvious place to jump in is I was reading a post that you wrote on our website, letswritethismovie.com, which I found pretty interesting, but maybe not for the same reason you did.
Okay.
And you kind of talked a little bit about the fact that we're going to have in this kind of unique situation
Situation.
Yes, whatever that was. And
James Gandolfini. No? Terrible? I'm kind of trying to practice that a little bit.
Yeah, okay. So that basically you have to go back and rewrite portions of the previous week and give us new pages. And so that may eat into your time naturally of doing new pages. And when I read that, I thought, I don't know if he's looking at this as a good thing, but for me, I had that feeling of when, maybe a showrunner creates a brand new show and, they're initially signed for 12 episodes and they just got the full order. They're going like the full 24, the full 22 and like, oh, they got picked up for a full season. That's how I felt. It's probably going to take us a little bit longer to do this entire show now. Great. We're going to be doing this more often. So I was kind of happy when I read it. That was my interpretation of it.
Do you mean if I reduce the number of pages to 5 so that I have about 10 that I'm writing?
Yeah, it's
like 5 old, 5 new. Okay.
Yeah, it's naturally going to take longer to get this whole thing done.
Yeah,
cool.
Job security, right?
Well, channel security.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I am ambivalent at this point. I want to see how it goes, how it affects the channel, how it affects how we record these, how long it takes.
Yeah.
If it seems like we're spending too much time per episode, then I don't mind shortening it and just doing 5 new pages a week. If that means we get tighter shows and it's, an easier thing to watch.
Well, I can say this much: if the decision is going to be driven from the content that we give during each of the episodes, and the rewrite of last week's content is any indication, I think we're well on the way. Like, I think you took a lot of those notes and took them to heart and kind of made them your own as you typically do. To the point where, I mean, most of it just read through so smoothly, and I felt like all of the issues were not all of them, but I mean, I'd say the majority of everything was kind of handled to the point that I thought it made sense, and you introduced new ideas and concepts that I thought were very cool resolutions. So, in other words, I don't think that like once we get to the next show, we're going to look back 2 weeks and the week before. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a compound type of issue.
Thank goodness that we're not going to do that. I think. And I'm thinking way ahead here, and I don't know that this is necessarily appropriate or that I can stick to it. But I think by the end of the way we're doing it now, once we get a full script, then we can go back and do the next rewrite, kind of, the next polishing of the script.
Right.
and see how that goes. But I don't think it's necessary to keep rewriting the same, couple of pages each time.
No, I mean, unless there's something egregious that I'm just like, I can't get past or something, or you're stuck and we have an insert scene here type of thing. But I don't see that being the case at all.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great.
So do you want to dig in a little bit to how do you want to handle it? Actually, do you want to talk about the previous week's rewrite a little bit before we go into new content?
Yeah. I think that probably makes a lot of sense. Let me just pull up the script. Let me get to the right pages here. And I'm going to point out the stuff that I adjusted that I can remember off the top of my head. So first of all, I want to address one of your notes was to have 1879 that you said you don't think that was the right time frame that we agreed on. But I thought you wrote 1880 or 1880s was the period we should be looking at. And I thought 1879 was close enough.
Yeah, I think that was like 2 weeks ago, man. I don't remember any of that anymore.
All right, no problem.
Not that detail.
So I did give Sarah, let's see here, Sarah, towards the end of page 1, gave her a little more dialogue to explain,
Yeah.
That they waited 20 minutes. She's going to go and check out what's wrong. So, she just is a little more assertive, I think, in this version.
Right. I totally agree. Yeah. I felt like it was very smooth.
Okay.
I have, quite honestly, as I was reading through it, I don't have any notes until like page 3, any new notes. And
Okay.
the ones I do have are minor because I think you handled pretty much everything we talked about.
Great. So, just as an aside, as I'm rereading some of this dialogue, especially before long, I realized that I originally had him as a very well-spoken Chinese character who had I don't know if integrated very well into Western society.
Yeah.
And I wanted that to be, I guess, ironic that you now had this Chinese immigrant who spoke just like everyone else and had the same kind of, used the same kind of vernacular and had the same idioms and the same accent, and maybe just sometimes slipped into a Chinese accent, and of course still spoke Cantonese. So I think that's why his dialogue here is a little more elevated, like when he says post haste.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this probably still needs a little touching up, or it needs something to reinforce why he speaks this way, especially when I don't think this actually carries over in, near future dialogue, like dialogue that comes up soon after this. Like he kind of loses this eloquent speech.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I was reading it originally and the second time, I kind of felt like it was something that he has delivered dozens of times to dozens of different, people on different trains or whatever it's been that he's been, that he's been robbing. So I felt like it was just kind of like a preset speech that he had and that he's used forever and a day. And then when he's done with that, he kind of slips back into who he is. That's at least how I kind of read it. But I know what you're saying. And I don't feel like, I mean, I think there's a huge difference between the way that he speaks and the way that Sam speaks and some of the other folks in town as well. So I still think he's got a little bit of that elevated, more proper type of vocal, or speech pattern as it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe that's something for like the big rewrite at the end. We go back and just see if there's continuity of speech.
All right, great. Well, I'm glad you feel that way because, as I'm creating new dialogue and trying to figure out these characters as I go along here, this is definitely going to be we're sculpting, right? So we've got this giant block of marble, and I'm just chipping out rough outlines of people, rough shapes.
Yeah.
And we're obviously going to have to start chiseling away some detail and get rid of some of the fat. But right now I'm just trying to build an idea of these characters in my mind.
Right. Hey, something that's kind of a non sequitur. But in terms of Sarah, did you mention in our first show that she was going to be coming back later? And
Yes.
he's going to be doing something with the wedding ring.
Right. Yes.
Okay, just curious because she's named, and she, otherwise I don't know why she'd be named.
Right.
So I was just curious if she's going to make a reappearance. Okay.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. Maybe I should just silence my phone so that we're not bothered. Our best.
Should have blamed me. They don't know who that is.
Yeah, I know. Brian, stop messaging me. Okay, there you are. Done. Wonderfully produced show. The best show on the internet. All right. So, yeah, the thing is, though, even if she didn't come back, she plays a pivotal role in this intro scene that, just for the reader, it adds some clarity instead of just saying, young woman one, or crazy woman.
Right.
Anyway. Okay. So I also took your advice. I removed the reveal of the masked men until they bust the door open.
I saw that.
Some minor changes on page 4. And I did add a female passenger. It made more sense to kind of describe the reaction of the passengers after 3 men just got blown away in front of them. Right. They were probably the guardians of some women on the train.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense to have a female passenger get upset and react emotionally.
Right. Plus, I love that whole idea of them. What was it? Long turns to leave amid the wails of wives and daughters who just lost the men in their lives. I thought that was really nice and touching. And if I was someone reading the script or directing the script, that's a lot of meat on that one sentence. You can really make something cool out of that.
There you go, man. A little bit of Conan in there.
That's what I'm saying. So, question for you on page 3. This is just a choice. It's just a question for you because it's in the description rather than the dialogue. And you say here the passengers reluctantly deposit their valuables in a sack while masked man number 1 twirls a pistol insouciantly. Do you feel like someone is going to get caught up reading that and say, what is this? What does insouciantly mean? Do you know what I mean? Or do you feel like you need to dumb it down a little bit for the average reader?
Well,
it's a tricky, I know it's a weird question, but I hung up on it. I was like, I don't know if a lot of people are going to know that word.
Well, I think that with the context of twirling a pistol amid a train robbery, I think people will understand what insouciantly means just instinctively. And the other thing is, I like to write in such a way that elevates or that forces the reader to elevate themselves to the level of the writing.
Okay.
Now, with that said, you're absolutely right. I mean, if I were to turn this into a script reader, I would probably get marked down for that, because now I'm challenging their intelligence or their, how well read they are.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I may change that, as a screenwriter that is trying to stick with the 4-line rule per little description block.
Right.
It's the economy of words, right? Or letters, really.
Absolutely.
Now,
all right.
So let me just throw this out there before we continue. I wanted Long to have a harmonica where it would just be part of his character, where he would play songs throughout the film. And I thought it would be interesting here in the beginning if, while he's waiting for his brother to collect all of the goods, he's standing up front playing like Home on the Range or whatever on his harmonica. It added that kind of carefree, carefreeness to his character. I just don't know how I could pull it off with him still wearing his mask and have it be believable.
Right. You have to pull it up slightly and start playing the harmonica. Yeah, I mean, it certainly would play to showing how confident he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That he's like, this is my house. No one's going to mess with me. And if they do, then, I've got it under control. Might be a little over the top.
Exactly. I think it's too much.
Yeah. I don't think it's
okay.
necessary. I think that now the way it's written, especially what happens afterwards now and the reaction, I think we have a much better idea of who he is. And, there's definitely something there that I can latch onto and like a lot more than before.
All right. Okay. Fantastic. So let's see. What else did I add here? I'm moving into page 4. Yes, I already covered the new female passenger who just gets a bullet to her head rather than her head exploding. No more exploding heads, Brian. Okay, and then on page 5, Long is upset that a woman was killed. And so the exchange, I think, flows a little more realistically.
Yeah.
And it has a little more... I don't know how to describe it, but it just feels more organic and honest.
Yeah, I think what it does now is it shows true dynamics between the two. Whereas before I was getting a really good understanding of Sam.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing their interplay. I'm seeing a backstory that's obviously been there for a long time. If you can go up to someone, punch them, talk to them, and then start laughing with them, I mean, you've got a pretty well-established connection at that point, right? So you're kind of building in that backstory, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting way to go with it, and something I didn't expect at all. You know what I mean? And I felt like it was, again, he's just a little bit of a no nonsense. He didn't just go up to him and start yelling him or shove him or something. He punches the guy.
Right.
That's a statement. And it's a statement that says, we're a bunch of bad guys, and I'm the baddest of them, or at least I'm bad enough you're not going to mess with me, And even though he comes off at that little weak. I like you, so I'm going to let you go on this one,
Yeah.
Sure. It's very easy to read that. So, no, I think that, I think the interaction was really strong. I mean, it totally cemented the character. So I was much, much more happy with this one.
Okay. And I also gave a little more action for Bao, the brother. He has the rifle trained on Sam. So basically what I'm trying to establish here is that Sam is new to this group. Well, relatively new, because he's telling Long, hey, I told you I'd come in handy, right? So he hasn't proven that he'd come in handy yet, and he thinks this is proof. Okay.
Plus, it plays into his reputation.
Yeah.
Not just with the passengers, but with his fellow, colleagues, that he is the real deal. He's
right.
Not going to stand for any of that crap. But, of course, if you have a rifle trained at your head from your brother, that probably helps that a little bit as well.
Totally.
Yeah. One question for you, this new edition on page 5, it has, when they first get off the passenger car and Masked Man pulls off his mask.
Yeah.
If he's in view of everyone, because he is just a few feet away from the passenger car and he's kept it on until then, I was expecting that was because he's protecting his anonymity. Now he's revealing himself to those passengers. Is that something purposeful?
Well, I mean, I suppose that can change. I just, it's a.
You want to see the actor?
Well, yeah, I was going to say it's a concession to the movie audience.
Yeah.
It's like when you watch these Marvel superhero movies, it's like they always got to take off their masks to talk to each other for some reason, right. Then put them back on and fight.
Right, even though you completely understand everyone with their masks on.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's minor, and I'm sure that the director would just put his back to the passengers.
Totally.
So it was just a little question on that.
And I addressed you. One of your notes was that it was presumptive for, I can't remember the husband's name, Jimmy, to accuse Long of being Chinese.
Yeah.
And so I gave them all distinguishing bandanas that have a single long fang down the side of the bandana. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Let's not rehash that. Let's see. So on 6, 6 and 7, I extended the exchange between Long and Sam about the score from the train and kind of fleshing out why they need to go to Epitaph for this new job, because it's it's going to pay much more than stealing luggage from trains.
Right. No, I felt like the segue was there now.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that totally worked out. Quick question for you on page 6. When Long says, stash this at the hideout and meet us at Sally's, the hideout is in town?
No, the hideout is wherever.
Okay, so that's not something that we're going to go to learn about that later. It's just an aside almost type of thing.
Yeah, we just need to get Sam away so that he arrives later. Okay. And hopefully that'll be evident that the hideout is somewhere else when he goes a different direction than Long and Bao.
Okay.
I'm torn on if I should. Well, I'm just going to say it. So, folks, if I'm stumbling over my words or grasping for a word that is just a little out of my reach, it's because I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning, and we're recording at just a little before 11 at night. So, I'm a little out of my mind, but I'm going to soldier on, and we're going to get through this, and it's going to be the best damn show you've ever listened to.
And I'll never listen to.
Exactly. Okay, so yeah, I like this exchange here at the end or at the top of 7. That he says he ain't no purse snatcher. What I'm doing is I'm trying to establish Sam's singular focus on stealing a lot of money, basically, so payday. That what's that?
The big payday.
Yeah. So that when we get to Epitaph and Sam is there to, at least in the beginning, rescue Long, even though Long may, in my mind, what I'm thinking of is that Long is going to be, he's going to essentially forget about the job, and he just wants to get out alive. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be a point of contention between Long and Sam, because Sam wants to get this score.
Right.
And it's going to jeopardize, or at least it's going to put at risk everyone else.
And I think that makes sense. He's about the money. He's about the loot. Yeah, totally. I think that's great.
Okay.
No, seriously. I mean, I thought this whole intro was read super smoothly now.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Really pleased with it. When you get into the, sorry to jump a little bit, but when you get into the montage and you kind of re-describe Epitaph there.
Yeah. I did fix that. Right.
It's just very quickly, and I was just like, oh yeah, there you go.
So here's why I did that. So, the whole sharpened logs thing, that was straight from the cartoon history that we talked about in my mind. And apparently they didn't do that in the Old West. I did a little bit of researching, and the most that you would have had is a little outpost within the town, and maybe the town was built around the outpost.
Okay.
So I think this can still work.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, a posse would be looking at all possible entrances to the town. Maybe they're in an elevated position, so they would still need, if you were bad guys, if you were outlaws, you would still need a secret way to get into town. And I think that what I've done satisfies that requirement.
Totally agree. You've covered every possible version.
Okay.
Oh, yep, totally.
Let's see.
So I do have some notes on 8 when you get there.
Yeah, 8. Go ahead.
All right, so we've got the now I have a better understanding of the relationship with Town Sheriff Stan and Everett, the U.S. Marshal. But I know as a reader that Everett is a U.S. Marshal, and I know that Stan is the Town Sheriff. What I don't really think is very clear necessarily to anyone who's, unless they're like super plugged in of what a sheriff is and someone says Marshal, that they know that there's a distinction between the two of them. I think that it needs to be a little bit more clear as far as what that relationship is, and the fact that the Marshal is coming through Sam's town and kind of taking over to some extent. So I was thinking about something in the beginning of that conversation where Stan says, "Come on, Marshal, you've been riding those boys pretty hard for days. Let's call them in," right? I was thinking something like, "Come on, Marshal, you show up in my town unannounced 3 days ago, and you've been riding my boys pretty hard," something like that. And I don't know if they're his boys or
Yeah. I get it.
But then it's kind of like it's starting to show that there's a delineation between the two. And I know it's a little bit forced, but I'm just giving you some thoughts about that. I think that we need to know that Everett is someone who has returned visiting. He's been here a few times, as we're going to see pretty quickly with the female.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get that during the first interaction. I didn't realize that he was not just just a cop, basically.
Right.
A cop is a cop. So,
well, sure.
Yeah. I just because I don't know the distinction between Marshal and sheriff.
Yeah. I mean, I barely understand it. I don't even know if my understanding is correct. I just assume that it's different jurisdictions, that a marshal has a wider jurisdiction. Yeah, exactly. I had originally thought about the platform or the station manager saying something to Stan as he leaves. I was just trying to cut down on how many people speak.
Totally.
And so I was thinking, hey, the station manager, as he's going back into the office, maybe he says, "Sheriff," as Stan comes by, right? Or something even simpler, I could just throw in some camera focus, with some capitalized words, and focus on the sheriff's star or the badge, the sheriff's badge on Stan's chest.
We're going to see Stan again, right? He's the one who... Did you say he's the one who shoots... he's going to shoot Bao?
Yes.
I think anything we can do that's kind of happening between the two of them in dialogue is good. I've always enjoyed their interaction. I think it's interesting to see two lawmen talk, but they're talking kind of about different things. You know what I mean? Okay. So I like that they're the ones having whatever expository things are necessary.
Yeah.
I would like if they could do it between the two of them rather than involve a third person or a camera move.
I see.
I know it's a bit of a challenge, but I think it's cool. I just like their interaction.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. So far, between your suggestion and my suggestion, I like your suggestion more at this point. You need to noodle on it a little more to see how I feel when I actually start changing this. I'm sure you've made notes about this, though, right?
I have.
Okay.
I have not been up for 20 hours either, so it's a little easier for me to noodle.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm just saying, just make sure you send me those notes so that I can go over this again.
Of course.
All right. And I think that is all I have for the previous pages.
Same with me.
Okay, well then, I guess it's time to read new pages.
All right, let's do that. Cue the theme music. We should have some interstitial music there. Oh, sorry.
You're going to have to write that or perform that for us, Brian.
I will beatbox it live every time.
All right.
All right, shall we head in?
Let me just wet my whistle. Let's go back to side by side, see our faces before we start reading. We've been looking at a script this whole time.
Oh, hello again.
Okay. The rehearsed voices I was doing.
Yes.
As I was reading this to myself, like, how would Zeke sound? How would Sally sound?
I'm about to find out.
Yeah, they're gonna destroy my throat.
Oh, great.
Just destroyed.
Mentholated Sally.
What's that?
Mentholated Sally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
Let's go for it.
Interior, secret passageway, continuous. Long and Bao make their way through the natural separation in the earth. As they continue, the passageway becomes braced by wood boards and support beams. They arrive at a lantern illuminating the underside of heavy cellar doors. Long tries the iron handles, but the sturdy doors won't budge. He bangs hard on them. After a moment, scraping is heard on the other side. Then the door opens, revealing Zeke Bonner, 50, a portly man with a bushy beard and a bowler hat.
Zeke. Well, if it ain't the tooth fairies. Long. Oh, is that a joke about our names?
Long and Bao climb out of the passageway. Interior, Sally's saloon. Back corridor, continuous.
Zeke. Fang brothers? Tooth fairies? I've been saving that all day. Long. Y'all want to talk? Zeke. Your name sounds like a disease.
Zeke slams the cellar doors shut and slides a lock in place.
Zeke. It's a joke. What crawled up your britches and died? Long. Sorry. It's been a hell of a day. It's good to see you again. Zeke. Yes, sir. It's been a while.
He shakes Long's hand vigorously and slaps Bao on the back heartily. He begins walking them to the front door, where the din of saloon activity can be heard.
Zeke. It's a good thing you still remembered to use the back door. Posse's in town. But I hear they're moving it. Let's try that again. But I hear they're moving on in the morning. Long. You still got those spare rooms? Zeke. Fresh sheets, just for you. Long. Hot damn. Looking forward to sleeping in a bed for a change. Zeke. Want me to send some girls from 9 Lives up? Long. Maybe later. Right now, we could use a drink.
Interior, Sally's saloon, front room, continuous. The large room is bustling with activity. Unsavory-looking people sit at most tables. Some play cards. Others compare scars and tattoos, while the more dangerous types either arm wrestle or keep to themselves. An aging Indian man sweeps. A man plays lively tunes on the upright piano by the stairs that lead up. Long and Bao saunter up to the bar. Sally Stretch, 55, a woman whose obvious beauty has long since faded, mans the bar. She wears an old cabaret dress.
Sally.
Well, looky here. Who's got a kiss for Sally Stretch?
When she speaks, her voice is hoarse. She offers her cheek to Long and absentmindedly scratches at the scar around her neck that could only result from rope burns. Long leans over the bar and kisses her cheek. Sally offers her other cheek to Bao, but when he leans to kiss it, Sally quickly turns and kisses Bao on the lips. She grabs both sides of his head so he can't escape even though he struggles, wide-eyed. Sally finally releases him.
I know you missed that.
Long laughs as Bao wipes the slobber off his face.
Long. Careful, Sally. You'll make Zeke jealous. Zeke. Lighting cigar. Better him than me. It's like kissing a prune. Sally.
Oh, hon. Better than kissing that briar patch of a face.
To Long.
Now, what'll it be, sugar?
Long. Gin.
Bao knocks on the bar top twice, then signals with 2 fingers to pour one for him as well. Sally does so, then moves down the bar to 2 sullen-looking men. By their attire, they're prospectors.
Prospector number 1.
We just have to keep digging.
Prospector number 2. I'm telling you, we're digging in the wrong spot. Sally.
You boys want another one?
They nod.
How about you show me your coin before I pour?
The men's shoulders slump, and they slink out. Meanwhile,
Long. Well, Zeke, I got your message. What's the job this time? Zeke. Puffing hard on cigar.
Long?
I don't even know the voices anymore. Whose voice am I doing? How does it go? No one knows.
do more, Sally.
Long. Hang on. Let's go back to side here while I drink and cool my throat. Jesus.
I probably should be muting as I laugh. Sorry about that. It's funny, though.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Here we go. Back to the script. Okay. Zeke. Long, we've hit the mother lode, and I mean it.
Insert montage. Interior, Prophet Silver Mine, day. Chinese workers swing pickaxes against the mine wall.
Zeke, voiceover. Them Chinamen been slaving away night and day in the silver mine, and there's been enough silver to draw prospectors from miles around. But not like this.
One weary worker looks like he's going to pass out, but gives one more swing. As the rock falls away from the wall, the worker's face illuminates from the silver revealed. The vein is so rich, other workers stop and marvel at the silver wall.
Worker number 1. Boss! Boss!
Exterior, Prophet Silver Mine, later. Cart after cart of silver ore is pushed out of the mine. Workers then load the ore onto a horse-drawn cart under the supervision of foremen.
Zeke, voiceover. The silver flowed like a river, just cart after cart, all coming out of Old Man Prophet's mine.
Old Man Prophet, 65, a bespectacled man with a slight frame and with only a few fine strands of hair left on his scalp, watches from a platform and grins ghoulishly. Exterior, Wells Green Bank, later. A large sign with the bank's name hangs over the entrance. A solitary guard stands outside by the door with a shotgun. The cart full of silver ore pulls up, and armed men spill off the back as another cart full of Chinese workers arrives.
Zeke, voiceover. The closest smelter is in Bisbee, and the old man has already sent for guarded transport. It'll take them a couple of days for them to get here.
Interior, Wells Green Bank, continuous. Behind the tiller stations and the manager's desk, a giant vault dominates the rear of the room. The front door opens and Old Man Prophet approaches a clerk and drops a giant silver ore at his station.
Zeke, voiceover. In the meantime, all of that ore is being stored under lock and key at the bank, and I've got a plan to take it.
End montage. Interior, Sally's saloon. Front room, continuous.
Long. So, we're bank robbers now? Zeke. Sure, why not? Long. Why not just ambush the transport on its way to Bisbee? Zeke. Long. The old man let's try that again. Long. The men Old Man Prophet hired to guard his fortune are just some boys from around town looking for honest work. The men coming from Bisbee are professionals. Used to be in the army under Sherman. We're not going to get the jump on them. And if things go south, we'll have real trouble. Get me? Long. All right, Zeke. I believe you. We'll need time to think about it. Zeke. Sure. Just don't think too long. Tomorrow night's probably our only chance.
He leaves as Long and Bao huddle and discuss the idea. Exterior, Porter's General Goods, continuous. The general goods store is busy with all walks of life coming in and out with the necessities for their day. Everett approaches and stands outside with his back to the wall and his eyes on the street. Several of his posse file by. They nod, tip their hat, or otherwise thank him with some small gesture, as if knowing better than to speak to him. Stan walks up after a last member enters the store.
Stan. The boys sure are grateful. I'm sure they all miss their families. Everett. Don't we all?
Stan and Everett stand in silence for a moment.
Everett. Where's the best place to get a drink around here? Stan. Hey now, I never pegged you as the drinking kind. I always thought you were drier than a snake's behind.
Everett gives him an expectant look.
Stan. Okay, since you want the best, there are only two places worth recommending. The 9 Lives or Sally's. 9 Lives is a cat house, but the girls also put on a decent show if that's the kind of entertainment you're looking for. Sally's is even more unsavory if you can believe that. Mostly the dregs of society, and that includes Sally. Rumor is that they strung her up in Texas, but that tough bitch wouldn't die. So, you won't like the clientele, but Sally pours them stiff.
Everett's attention is focused on the approaching horse-drawn cart. Riding on it are Maggie Miller, 30, her son, Billy, 7, and her hired Negro help, Ray, 35. Stan realizes, gives Everett a knowing smile, and leaves into the store. When the cart stops, Everett doesn't approach, but his eyes smile. Ray hops off and begins gathering sacks and containers from the cart. Maggie is the first to see Everett.
Maggie. Oh, Christ. I don't know how I'm going to do a female voice. I can only do heavy smoker female voices, apparently.
Pitch it up.
Yeah, right. Not after doing freaking all these lines of Sally. My throat is just trashed. All right, let's just take a quick break here, side to side.
Let's take a quick break and ponder what we've recently heard.
Mm-hmm.
What we've heard.
What have we heard, Brian?
We heard about Maggie Miller.
Here we
And
go.
Did you know that Maggie is the first to see Everett?
Are you trying to read more into that than...
No, I was trying to relaunch you into dialogue.
Okay. Maggie. Fancy seeing... Fancy seeing you here again, Marshal. Oh, my God. Everett. Miss Miller. Maggie. Please, Everett, call me Maggie. Are you chasing another dangerous outlaw? Everett. Let me get to the script here. Been trying to scroll the wrong screen. Everett. Yes, ma'am, I am. Maggie. There must be so many for you to be coming around as often as you do. Are you sure there's not another reason?
Everett blushes, unsure of what to say. Then,
Billy. Howdy, Marshal. Everett. Howdy, Billy. You looking after your ma? Billy. You bet. When I grow up, I'm going to be a famous marshal too, so no one can ever hurt Mama again.
he pulls a piece of wood shaped like a crude pistol from his belt and pretends to shoot from the hip.
Billy. Bang, bang, bang! You bad man! Don't shoot my daddy!
Everett smiles as if for the first time in a long time.
Maggie. That's enough, Billy. Go help Ray fetch what we came for.
Ray, a formidable black man, dressed in field hand attire, nods at Everett as he approaches, containers in hand.
Everett. Ray, good to see you. Ray. Yes, sir. You too, sir. To Billy. Come on now. Get. Billy. Aw. Bye, Marshal.
He gives a friendly wave before entering the store with Ray. Maggie moves closer to Everett.
Maggie. You'll have to excuse him. You've made quite an impression on him. He's not the only one. She locks eyes with Everett. I wish you would stay longer. Everett. Maggie, Maggie. It's all right. Just think about it.
She lays her hand on his chest, over his heart, then goes inside the store.
There we are, Brian.
There we go.
There it is. Let's get
Very
back
good.
to side by side. Here we are. If I knew how that Ariana Grande song went, I'd sing it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what any of that means. I really have Sally's voice stuck in my head, man. That was awesome. I just want to see the movie about her now.
I kind of, I don't say fell in love with that character as I was writing it, but it was something that, as a writer, as someone writing in the way that I write, which is probably in the incorrect way, I'm just like writing my way through a forest, and I don't know if it's the right path. And then sometimes there are just these little clearings or like little roads that help me get through it. And finding Sally and, just like coming up with little details about her that, oh, Sally stretched because they hung her, but she survived, and she's got, these rope burns. And she's kind of like this very forward woman. I like that.
Yeah.
So it just gives me a nice foundation to build off of. And do you care if I talk about what I have in mind for her at the end?
Oh, before you go there, I just
Okay.
wanted to say, regardless of the way you read her, that's kind of how I interpreted her. And she just feels really lived in. She's like that meaty part that's probably not going to be a huge part in the movie. But, it's like he's definitely seen her teeth into her because she's really memorable.
Totally.
Yeah. Now go ahead.
Well, I don't know how big of a part she's going to play throughout the film, but when in the end, when Zeke betrays the group out of fear, and he goes through the secret passageway to save his own skin, without any regard for the other people who helped him survive.
Yeah.
And he bars the door with his shotgun from the other side so they can't get through. We think, oh, he's going to get away, but Sally has already gotten ahead of him, and she's in the passageway. Maybe, he told her, if I'm not back in a day or whatever, make sure you go through the passageway and save yourself, kind of thing. But she will have been infected. So we're going to revisit the whole, who's got a kiss for Sally? Oh, God. As she eats Zeke's face.
Nice.
Anyway, that's what I have planned. I don't know if that's actually going to happen yet.
Just poetic. All right, man. Well, yeah, okay. So, should we dig into thoughts on the new script?
Absolutely.
Like right off the bat, it's kind of the opposite where I was last time in terms of understanding the physical layout, because like the very first scene where they're in that little secret passageway, I was just like, that's cool. I totally get it. I can see it kind of transitioning from that deserty, natural atmosphere into transitioning into the town. I just thought that was really cool. So I think this is very easy for anyone who's reading it to get and get a real clear understanding of how this works. And I also felt that the sturdy doors wouldn't budge, the iron handles knocking it. I thought that was all good foreshadowing for what's to happen later. So yeah, I was really happy with the way it began. I do have some notes about the bottom of page 9 and the top of page 10.
Okay.
Which is just something that kind of has bugged me when I read something or hear something in a movie. And that's when people talk about jokes.
Yeah.
Like, is that a joke? Is that a joke about our names?
Yeah.
Or later Zeke says it's a joke, how you said it. I just don't really like when they acknowledge it's a joke. I prefer when it's played as, either played as a joke or played with a comeback from Long to Zeke, rather than, that in which we can interpret that it was a joke. Like they have that relationship. I mean, they obviously have a relationship because they know each other, and it's good to see you again. You kind of slap each other on the back or whatever it was. I kind of understood that. There's this, I don't know if it's really showmanship, or if it's just like a controlling that they kind of give each other, but I felt like it was one way. And I felt like Long could have done more than, your name sounds like a disease. I didn't quite get that reference, unless that is something I'm missing, what Zeke would sound like, other than the fact that it just made randomly sound like something, or if you had something specific in mind. But it's funny, when I was reading it, I came to the name Zeke Bonner, and I was like, okay, is he gonna riff on the name Bonner, as a retort to the Tooth Fairies. I got the Tooth Fairy thing pretty quickly with the long fang. Okay, I got that. I thought that was pretty clever.
Okay, so let me just jump in.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was going to be. That was going to come across the Tooth Fairies. Like, I'm trying to put myself in the position of someone who is not living with the script the way you and I are.
Yeah.
Like, because they know what a Tooth Fairy is.
Right. So what's the reference? I mean, I wrote something down here in one of my notes, and I'm not going to cuss on the show, but, in the service of the script, I'll just bleep it. I said something like, maybe there's more of a history that's inferred when they're talking. So maybe Zeke says, well, if it ain't the Tooth Fairies, and Long retorts with like, I told you to knock it off with that joke blank. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard that joke a million times, That's not funny. Nothing you say is funny. I've heard it all from everyone before. Something like that.
Okay, maybe he can say, you know, well, I don't know. This feels anachronistic and feels like too modern of a convention, but basically, like, you know, really, every goddamn time, or something like that.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think that's fine.
Well, that just seems like that.
Too inside.
Well, not too inside. It just feels a little hacky. I feel like that. I've seen that so many times. That's not to say that I have not seen what I wrote too many times. This is also hacky, but it's a hack that I came up with, you know?
I think it'd be funny just to call back to what you did and just punches him. Told you to cut that.
It's always funny. That's what he does. He punches people.
Give us a kiss. Punches her too. Anyway, just something to think about.
Okay, and Zeke, you know, what came to mind was the Zika virus, which was
Zika.
which was popular. And I know that is kind of this anachronism because obviously they didn't have Zika back then. But
Right.
modern audiences, you know, Long is just like, he's just throwing it out there. It sounds like a disease, not that. It sounds like this disease. Just it sounds like
Right.
a disease. And then lo and behold, we have a disease that sounds like his name today. Now, I don't know
Okay.
if that's going to come across. And obviously, you know, for your read, it did not. So definitely something that needs to be punched up, worked on, discarded.
But I love the tooth fairies. So I mean,
Okay.
I think that's great, especially because he's talking about, you know, and this is one thing I will talk about a few times as we go forward. But I love when he's addressing both of them. So it's not the tooth fairy; it's the tooth fairies.
Yeah.
Because I like that Bao is being included and everything, especially because I thought, quite honestly, in these pages I was going to lose him already, but apparently not. But I know that that's going to happen. And with that said, I want to. Every time there's a chance, I like the idea of punching the two of them up together. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I've got a nice little scene to humanize Bao and kind of build him up and their relationship
Okay.
before we lose him. In fact, I'm toying with the idea of the reason why Long is so lethal is so that his brother doesn't have to be. I'm toying with the idea that that Bao has never killed anybody.
Oh, I like that.
And when Long is in danger, Bao comes out with his rifle to help, I guess. And, you know, maybe, you know, Long sees this and he's like, you know, trying to stop his brother from getting into the fight, which is why he's unable to kill the Marshal immediately.
Okay.
I mean, this is all up in the air, so I know we're not at those pages yet, so if you don't want me to talk about it right now.
No, I think that's cool. I mean, I like the idea of him having a bit of a moral or ethical problem with it. You know, like the battle in his head.
Yeah.
Like you know, the old, you don't know what killing someone does to a man. He doesn't want that.
Right.
He doesn't want his brother to have to experience that, especially in his diminished capacity.
So in the upcoming pages, which is going to be definitely in the next episode, the reason Long is trying to protect his brother is because his brother is the one who was responsible for the big train death that killed the Marshal's family, right?
Oh.
You know, it was Bao. That was not the intention, and so Bao has always felt very guilty about that. Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, is there anything to either name?
No.
They're
These are just Chinese names that I pulled out of I used to work for a company that was like 95% Chinese people. And I was just like pulling out names from people I used to work with and doing amalgamations, you know, mixing up first names and family names. And so, and well, here's the thing, you know, I settled on, you know, Fang Long because it was a cool outlaw name if you reversed it, which is what I assumed people would do back in the day, right? When you think of like Robin Hood,
Yeah.
right? Guy named Robin and he wore a hood. Right? I guess that made sense, right? That makes sense, right?
Right.
So Long Fang, Fang Long, Long Fang. I was gonna do something with Bao, like something about a dog, but since we're killing him off, I'm like, forget it. I don't need to build any of that.
Right. His middle name is Down.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bow down. All right. So, okay. So on page 10, when Zeke is talking to him and he says, it's a good thing that you still remember to use the back door. Posse's in town, but I hear they're moving on in the morning. I feel like there should be some sort of retort there. Cause right now he doesn't, he just goes on to, you still got those spare rooms. So if there was even just something like, it's no matter, where he's like tossing that aside, like, don't worry about that, that their presence doesn't even interest me, and then moves on. I just felt like there's a little bit of a disconnect there in the natural conversation.
No, that's fine. I think he can probably say something like, a little quip about the Marshal.
Yeah. Does he know it's the Marshal? I mean, is that what the interpretation would be when he says Posse's in town? I guess.
Well, I mean, I would assume as much.
Okay.
I mean, the question is, do I want to reveal that Long and the Marshal already have this kind of relationship where they know of each other? I mean, obviously the Marshal knows of Long because he's chasing him, but that Long and the Marshal have like this personal history.
Right.
And maybe maybe it's nice little setup here.
Okay. Yeah, then, I mean, depending on how much you want to set it up, you could say Posse's back in town, like this is happening again.
Yeah.
But
okay.
That's kind of up to you to how much you want to do that.
All right.
I love the name of 9 Lives. I think that's cool. I was like, when I read it, I'm like, is this a kitty cat reference? Like, like the cats, like, is this a whorehouse basically we're talking about? And then later it's revealed. I was like, that was kind of cool. So when Zeke is having this discussion with Long, again, these are just some thoughts I had. So when he says fresh sheets just for you, first thing I had was like just the little thing, like maybe fresh sheets just for you too. TWO, as in, he's talking to both of them. Again, I just want to make sure Bao is present.
Okay.
And explicitly in the scene. And then to take it a step further, and again, you do what you want with this, but this is just some thoughts. But to get him more involved in this and to help kind of foster that idea that these two are close, I wrote like maybe Bao indicates that let's see, wait.
Something special for him.
I'm just trying to read what these notes say. They don't make any sense to me. I don't understand who wrote this. All
right. Perfect.
So Zeke asks if he wants a drink, he gets drink at the end. Okay. So Zeke asks, want me to send some girls from the 9 Lives up? And then Bao can indicate, no, he wants a drink,
Okay.
But Long wants the woman. Bao wants the drink, so Long gives in, and Zeke can say something like, damn, don't you two ever do anything alone, or something, just to kind of show them that they're making decisions. All decisions they're making together.
Yeah.
Just to help kind of foster that relationship.
Oh, I like that. That's it's a good note.
Well, hopefully you'll remember it when you read it, because I don't think what I wrote makes total sense.
I mean, I'll work through it. It'll be fine.
All right. So on page 11, now we're inside Sally's saloon. And again, this is another one of those, I don't know if we want to hit people over the head with it or they've got it by now, especially with me trying to say maybe we should have more with Bao.
Yeah.
But when Sally says, well, looky here, I put, well, looky here, my favorite brothers.
Okay. I mean? Okay.
I don't know if it's necessary, but if you feel like it's too much, it's a subtle change. Quite honestly, I have nothing else on page 11. I just, it's kind of like the first time I heard Sam and the Marshal talking, I was just like, yeah. When Sally, Zeke, and Long are having that conversation, I was like, yeah, this is just reading very smoothly,
So, there is, let me take a step back here. I have this problem of knowing where to set up characters, like how early, and when is it too late? When does it feel like the audience doesn't feel like the information that they're getting, the new information they're getting about a new character, is important. Anyway, so the Indian man sweeping, he is going to be a prominent survivor once, everything goes to hell, right?
Okay.
And I did want to have the scene where he is cleaning and he sees some unfinished alcohol and he's about to it's like surreptitiously drink it, but he's spotted by either Zeke or Sally, and they pull a shotgun on him, and they say, "Hey, Chief, what are you doing?" Oh God. Oh, my poor throat. Basically, they admonish him, and then we get the quick backstory, and we see the tomahawks, the double tomahawks placed above the bar, and that's all we need. We just, I've planted that in the audience's mind. We know that this guy, he's very minor so far, but he is important enough to call out, so let's just remember him.
Right.
Right now he's just sweeping, and he's just kind of like a background character. I don't even draw any focus, put any focus on him as a shot. And I'm, a lot of information is being given to the audience here.
Right.
And I don't know if forcing that whole interaction and establishing this character, Chief Redfeather, is the best place to, if this is the best place for that. Now, right after this, once, as we've already read through this, obviously, once we get back to Long and Bao in the bar and they're agreeing to take the job, Long is going to tell Zeke, like, "Hey, sounds good, we're going to do it." And Zeke says, "Hey, let me go and get those girls for you." Right? And Long's going to say, "No, Zeke, let me pick the girls. Last time, basically they weren't they weren't his taste," or whatever. I don't know what he's going to say. All but right. It's going to be that excuse. And so that's why Long goes across the street. He leaves the safety of this bar to cross the street as the Marshal is going to get his drink, and that's how they run into each other.
Yeah.
So, we're having this very pivotal scene in the next few pages that are going to change the direction, the trajectory of this entire story.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense to suddenly introduce the chief. Because following Long's capture or imprisonment, incarceration, whatever you want to call it, we are going to get to live with the townsfolk a little bit for a couple of pages, like maybe 5 pages, 5-6 minutes, just to know who these characters are. The snake oil salesman's going to come to town. We're going to get the Indian bandits. They're going to be captured and they're going to be hanged. Right? So maybe it's okay to introduce the chief. Though it just seems a little weird that, Sally and Zeke, who were, hoping, basically their near future was built on the foundation of this job, and now that's been upended because Long, who's integral to the plan, has been captured. It just seems weird that they would just go back to their jobs of running a saloon.
Right. Well, in terms of introducing the chief, where my mind went is there's kind of like this early introduction of Sally, not introduction, this reacquaintance of Sally with Long and Bao, and she has her little kisses with them, and then she stops to do a little bit of bar business, right? And she goes over and talks to the prospectors and says, basically, beat it, you got no money.
Yeah.
I would think, if anything, that would probably be the place to have that little mini scene with the chief.
Okay.
Because it's almost like right after that is when the more of the plot is given, and we're starting to see, okay, what's this job all about? And that's where right before we go into the voiceover and the Chinaman and the in the mine. So maybe it's before the prospectors or after, but in that general area, it feels like that's the natural pause right before that next set of action
Yeah.
begins.
That's actually a great suggestion. As the prospectors leave,
Yeah.
they pass Chief, who is cleaning a table. That's fantastic.
Okay, cool.
Could you make that note for me, Brian?
I have made it.
Thank you very much.
Consider it done. Do you want to address any of the other things that you were talking about too? I mean, I know you're still kind of flushing all that out.
Like which?
No, that's fine.
I think I'm good.
I think it's going to all play out as we go through the next set of pages, but it sounds like you're still working through how all those pages are going to play out.
Yeah. I mean, I have a general idea.
Okay.
The next thing that's going to happen is that right before Long and Bao accept the job, Bao is going to be almost a little distant as Long is trying to weigh the pros and cons with Bao. And Long is going to notice Bao is looking at this like old picture of, railroad workers or a train or something. And Long is going to pick up on Bao regretting the thing that happened. And Long's going to say, we do this job. We aren't going to, if the money is as good as Zeke says, we aren't going to have to, hurt people anymore. We can retire, all of that.
Right. One last job.
Exactly. 2 days to retirement.
Bao was played by Danny Glover.
Totally.
All right. So let's move on here. Okay, so on page 12, when Long says, "Well, Zeke, I got your message. What's the job this time?" I just feel like there should be a little bit more emphasis, since he's already aware that this is going to be a big haul going in, right? Because he tells Sam earlier that they've got a bigger job coming up. I think you should be like, what's this big job, or what's got you so excited? Tell me more about this job. Just something. To kind of
Okay, let's do what's got you so excited. That sounds good.
Okay.
Originally, I was thinking he would say, what's the score? But I think that's too modern.
I agree.
Even saying job, I think that's too modern.
Think so? I don't know what the equivalent would be.
That's the thing. I think they would just say, what are we stealing this time, or something like that. They would just be on the nose, right?
Maybe. I think you can get away with job though.
Okay.
I think that's you have to take some creative license.
Yeah.
To me, I don't think that's too far out.
Well, let's kind of revisit something about the harmonica. The idea was that the idea for the movie was the tone anyway was to have it be to have tones of, or not tones, but signifiers of modern things, modern conventions. And so the music was, as I shared with you, Brian, was going to be AC/DC, but bluegrass. And folks, if you want, you can find that on YouTube. I think it's called Back in Bluegrass is the album I heard. And that really inspired a lot of what I was going for with this script. I don't know if that's still the direction I want to take, but I think it would put audiences in the proper mindset if we had music that they're familiar with in this time, anachronistically placed in this other time. I don't know. Does that sound interesting to you, Brian?
It's interesting. I also think when you do that, you lower the stakes a little bit because people won't take it as seriously.
Yes.
Now you're
right.
So if that's kind of where you want to go and make this a little bit more fun, then I think that's a good addition. If you feel like it's going to undermine a little bit of the tension, because I'm not totally sure where it's. I mean, this is kind of like the movie before the movie, because once those zombies are infected, hit, I feel like it's going to take a bit of a shift. So I don't know which direction you intend to go in. That's kind of up to you.
Yeah, it's I like the idea of having a serious Western film, but I also like the idea of having it be a fun film that, you just enjoy watching.
I mean that to me is like, if it goes too far left of where it begins, then it becomes to me, and people love this movie. I really enjoy this movie, but from dusk till dawn, the first half is a movie I loved, and the second half I enjoyed Salma Hayek in, and that's it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough.
It was like two movies, in one.
Yeah.
So as long as those fibers are there throughout, I think you're okay.
All right, well, let's not make any decisions yet. And, I just want the audience to know this is what's going through my mind.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it goes.
Cool. Page 13, if we can go there, is a bit of a cluster, no offense.
It's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have no notes on that one. Page 14.
A cluster of goodness, of perfection.
Yes. Oh, no notes on 13. So page 14. This is just a question to you. When Zeke says we're going to get them, we're going to get the jump on them, and if things go south, we'll have real trouble. Get me? Maybe a silly question. I just want to make sure I'm clear. When you say, and if things go south, is that the figurative south, or is that a literal south?
Well, it was either that or pear-shaped. So no, it's the metaphorical south.
Okay. So this is at the bottom of the page. It's really kind of going back to the idea of the Marshal's men, or is this the sheriff's men? So when you say several of his posse file by, I took that as the Marshal's men. They're not the local men. So I guess it could kind of play either way, though. If you want to play up the idea, if it being the local guys, saying, Marshal or something like that as they walk by, or if it's just his guys tipping their cap, like you mentioned, it's kind of just a choice for you. But again, it's an opportunity to delineate between the two sets of enforcers.
Okay. So here's a sticking point for me. And this goes back to something I addressed in the very first episode, which is, since I don't know how any of this stuff worked back in the day, I don't know how posses work. I always assumed it was just local guys who said, yeah, hey, I want to help bring this outlaw to justice. I will ride with you, Marshal, or whomever. I think even the sheriff could round up a posse, right?
Do you want me to do some research?
I would love that, Brian.
Okay. I'm making myself a note. You got it. Right. So skipping into page...
Wait a second. That's it? Yep. Those are the two things for the cluster?
These new pages read pretty quickly, man. I really didn't have a lot of issues with anything.
Wait, you said it was a cluster, though.
It was a joke.
Oh.
It's also almost midnight for you, but it was a joke. Maybe a poor joke.
I thought that was on the nose. I was like, oh, well, I was a little worried about them. I didn't know it was a cluster.
No, actually, I'm on page 16 now.
Okay, great.
Okay.
First of all, let me just say I can't hear how my voice sounds with these earbuds.
Yeah.
So I don't know if my Maggie voice was high enough to pass as a woman.
I have to say your Maggie voice was the least authentic voice.
Okay.
But I thought your Billy was a good voice.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I can't hear it, so
I think they started to kind of mesh.
Of course. I do this long enough. When we do a full read through, by the end of it, it will all be Sally. Just because my throat will be so thrashed.
I was gonna say, if we ever take this into a scripted pod type of thing, you can do all the voices. Maybe not. Maybe except for Maggie.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So the only real issue I had with the new pages was on page 16.
Okay.
To be honest now.
Yeah.
So it's when Billy is talking,
Yeah.
And the couple things that he says
Hmm.
felt way too on the nose and expository.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when he says, "So no one can ever hurt Mama again,"
Yeah.
"Don't shoot my daddy,"
Yeah.
you know, it was a bit of a stretch for me. I felt like you're introducing some very important concepts that are going to play out later, but it just did not feel authentic at all.
Mm.
So what I was thinking here, because I really liked that he had such an interesting relationship with Maggie.
Yeah.
Hold on a second, let me go back to this here. Maggie, page 15.
Miller.
Yeah. With Maggie, and then I liked that he had a good relationship with Billy. Like, it felt like there was something there. There was obviously, again, that implied history.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if there's a way to maybe, instead of using that as for expository purposes, I felt like it would be better if they kept playing on that, maybe even a little bit deeper, that there's a relationship there, something subtle. So what I wrote was something like Everett saying, "Hey, do you still have that badge I gave you?" And Billy smiles, and Maggie says, "Are you kidding? He sleeps with it every night." So there's something there. There's that personal connection that stays with the family.
Yeah.
After when he's away. I just thought that was kind of a neat touch, and it kind of played on the other things that you've written in here. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. If you want to go there, I would say at the most maybe one of those, but the two back to back is like too much to me.
Okay. I like the "Don't shoot my daddy" line.
Really?
Well, I mean, the kid is 7, and I think it is. So I'm trying to put myself in the position of the audience member, and they don't know that this woman is a widow.
Right.
And without knowing that, I don't know if the audience is going to have any questions about why she is having this kind of conversation with the Marshal. I think they'll put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that through Billy's like kind of innocent play, right? We learn that the husband was murdered, essentially, right? It wasn't just like a natural cause or, like an accident. It was something very traumatic in their lives.
Right. And as the father of my own 7-year-old, I can say that there are those moments where things like this come out, or maybe they come out a little inappropriately.
Yeah.
He doesn't mean it, but something like that will be said. I just don't think you can get both in there.
Oh, that's fine. And I don't even necessarily need either one, to be honest. I mean, I like your suggestion. If I can fall back on a cheap excuse, I was at the end of writing these pages and I was like, I'm getting close to my page count. This is good enough dialogue, right?
Yeah.
So
I have a feeling when I see the next version of this, there's gonna be like a whole another page of
Billy just has like monologue. It's just like this pillar of Billy speaking.
A U.S. Marshal who's not a local guy but works with the local sheriff.
Exactly.
It's really great that you cover.
He'll just turn to the camera. He'll be the narrator through a child's eyes.
Yeah. Or it's like, when I was a boy, Marshal came around.
Exactly.
All right. So the final thing I had was Maggie's kind of last little speech, where she kind of lays it on a little thick.
Yeah.
Opinion where she's like, he's not the only one.
Oh, I know. I know, Brian.
So,
I fall back on that cheap excuse, but I think this, I think it's not. It's a reason at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's there. It's there without it. You've made you'll have to excuse him. You made quite an impression on him. That kind of plays in what I was talking about before.
I can get rid of that line. It'll just be, "I wish you could stay longer."
Yeah, and I kind of changed that to again indicate that just to kind of reinforce that they've been doing this for a while. Can you stay a little longer this time, or
Yeah.
can you stay down a little bit longer this time?
Hmm.
But yeah, that line was kind of bugged me a little bit.
Oh, I get it.
But I love I love the kernels there, and I feel like it's especially when the lawman who's hardened and has got this vendetta against this criminal. He also softened to give the guys a break. He blushes, at Maggie. He definitely is humanized, so I thought that was cool, and I thought that was well done. I totally understand who this guy is.
Yeah, and so just logistically, once again, the movie is about to go in a vastly different direction.
Right.
I mean, we've just set up this kind of Ocean's 11 kind of heist thing, right? We're like,
exactly.
Okay, this is the target. This is the rich guy who we're gonna rob, and this is the obstacle. And through this montage, we're just like zooming around town and looking at these different things and problems. All of that is not going to matter in like a couple of pages,
Right.
right?
But
and
what
I think
will matter is the relationship that you've set up. So regardless of anything else, you've also set up some strong interactions and interplays between those,
yeah,
even though the goal is different.
totally,
Except for Sam, right?
right. But I think that's why I felt the need to kind of like rush detail into the dialogue.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, at least from your perspective, it's unnecessary. And I will take that under advisement as I revisit these pages for next week.
It's very little though, in terms of going a little heavy-handed. And I think you can, if you set up this relationship between the two of them, there has to be a moment when they're facing, annihilation from this outside source, that there's a breath, right? I mean, there has to be. You can't just have constant action in there.
Right.
So in one of those breaths, it can be a discussion between the Marshal and her, and I'm sorry, Maggie.
Yeah.
And they can kind of get a little bit deeper into what, her circumstances versus his past and things like that. So I think you can pocket some of that stuff.
Okay.
What we could do is like the first half or the first part here, you say this is to be directed by Steven Soderbergh, and then we'll turn it over to Richard Rodriguez. Isn't that what they did with Dust to Dawn? It was like Quentin Tarantino, and then Rodriguez, I think, did all the crazy stuff I don't like.
I thought, I don't remember.
Or was it all Rodriguez?
I think it was all Robert Rodriguez. Richard Rodriguez is the Night Stalker.
He did it too.
Yeah.
Really weird version.
He was also a screenwriter and director.
And acted.
Yeah. Well, Brian, is there anything else you wanted to add?
That's it, man. I think that these pages were great. Very quick reads. It's interesting that I will say only this, and this is just something to kind of lay some maybe a challenge at your footstep a little bit, because I know one of your favorite writers up until recently has been Shane Black, and he's noted for his dialogue, his repartee between the characters, maybe a bit of the attitude that comes off. It's very interesting, and I really like that quick interplay. And I watched the movie tonight with my wife, at your suggestion, which was Roger Dodger, and that quick interplay there and the really smart characters. I love that. So anytime that we can kind of infuse, not necessarily that element into here, but some echoes of that dialogue, that kind of quick-witted dialogue, and it almost feels like the Roger Dodger movie. I think it was like an hour and 40 minutes. And I'll bet you it was like a 200-page script. They put a lot of dialogue in there. It was fast. It was
right.
Just really engaging and fun and quick.
Mm-hmm.
And, no one talks like this in real life, but it's so cool. What
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's really apropos for this type of movie, but I would just say if there are any places where you can bring some of that, because I know in reading your past scripts that you enjoy, not the teardown, but the intellectual challenge that a character takes on and just kind of takes someone down a few pegs. I always think that's really cool. So anytime you can do that, those are the those are the scenes I really look forward to in reading your dialogue.
Okay. Yeah, I'll think about that. My initial resistance hearing this is that it's not that kind of movie, right? Like,
Right.
once the zombies are loose, it's gonna be
Talking to them.
Prospector number 1 screams.
40-page script.
Yeah.
They run.
Exactly.
They fight.
Bingo. Zombies chew.
That's great.
What'd you think of Roger Dodger?
Loved it.
Yeah, it's really good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a
A
blast.
great concept too.
Yeah.
Like,
Very, very interesting.
folks watching and listening, if you haven't seen that movie, stars Campbell Scott, one of my favorite actors, and a young Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
That's his name, right? Eisenberg?
Yeah.
It's got Flashdance, Jennifer Beals.
Deals, yeah.
Yeah. Still looking good.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Really enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. Excellent.
Good recommendation.
Okay, so to wrap things up, just want to remind everybody that we have a website, Let's Write This Movie, and this is where I will be adding new pages every week. I'm targeting Thursday evening, assuming I can keep up the pace. But, please, let me just navigate through the site, open up our most recent post. Please scroll down, look at the PDF viewer, and this is where all the new script pages are going to be. And I would appreciate it if you would leave your comments here in the comment field. And also, if you have any suggestions for what we're discussing, the story, the characters, dialogue, you can leave those comments here, or you can leave comments on our YouTube channel on any of these episodes. I am happy. Actually, we want your feedback so that we can discuss it during shows like this, so that we can extend these shows beyond the 2 hours that they normally run, and just keep talking until sunrise. Let me get back here to show my face, or our face. Faces.
Oh, our face.
We have become one. Yeah, that's creepy.
I don't know if I'm looking in the right direction.
Wrong direction. There you go.
Whoa.
Oh, I'm looking in the wrong direction. There it is. How does this work? No one knows. Have you seen the movie Leviathan?
Of course.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Where the monster is like absorbing the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, getting sidetracked here. All right. Well, that's it for me. I had a great time. This was very insightful for me, and I'm glad I didn't pass out or slur too many of my words during this episode.
Can we get a little Sally on the way out? Come on, man.
Oh, God. Who's got... I can't do it.
You can do it.
Who's... Forget it.
Do it.
I'll open up the next episode. It's killing my throat, bro.
All right, man.
All right.
See you next week.
See you then.
Bye.
Hold it. Hold it. Oh, yeah.
Don't leave that in.
I know. That's how it's going to start. Don't leave that in. Okay, this is for real.
All right. What's happening?
I'm stretching my face, bro. Stretching my face. Oh, I need to turn on my air conditioning. Hang on a second. Dude, I'm like roasting right now. I'll be right back.
Oh, my goodness. Well, since we are recording and René has stepped away from the microphone, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the idea of YouTube ASMR. René and Brian. Oh, he's back. No more ASMR. I will stroke you. I'll stroke your ears.
What?
Nothing? That's for later.
Yeah, a little surprise.